Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving into something absolutely fascinating. Slightly unsettling, honestly, but it is deeply, deeply relevant to every single one of us. We're examining what our source material calls health paradoxes, a quiet observation. Basically, we're going to untangle a series of modern closed loops that completely define our society. These are the hidden, everyday cycles we wake up to, participate in, and go to sleep with, mostly without ever realizing we're trapped right inside them. We're really going to look at how modern life structures our health, our wealth, and all our daily choices.
Productive first, sick later. Wow. Just let that sink in for a second. That is the core thesis of our entire modern existence distilled into 4 devastating words. Think about the stark irony here for a minute. We are literally conditioned from day one to prioritize output above all else. You grind, you push, you produce. Health? Well, health is treated as an afterthought, right? It's something you can just deal with eventually, once you've secured your place in the world. But placing productivity first practically guarantees that sickness comes later.
Okay, let's dive into this. Here is exactly how we're going to untangle these loops today. First, the 50-year loop. Second, the acceptable highs. Third, the convenience food trap. Fourth, the diet and disease paradox. And finally, who actually escapes?
All right, Section 1, the 50-year loop. Let's take a look at how this plays out. Let's look at how this builds across an entire human lifespan. It's like watching a really exhausting treadmill. Decades 1 through 3 of your adult life, you earn. You just put your head down and you grind and grind for decades. You trade your time, your sleep, your peace of mind, and your physical well-being just for a paycheck. And then you hit year 50. The grind peaks. You've supposedly made it, right? You have the savings, the status, the comfortable life. But look at what happens post-50. What happens to all that money you just spent decades earning? You spend it on the diseases that the grind itself created. You trade your health to get wealth in your youth, only to spend all your wealth trying to buy back your health in your old age. It's a perfectly closed, devastatingly ironic 50-year loop.
Moving right along to Section 2, the acceptable highs. So shifting from that macro view of a whole lifetime right down into our daily habits, we find the exact chemical loop society permits. And this brilliantly illustrates the point. Legal. Drugs that keep you producing. If a substance wakes you up, sharpens your focus, pushes you through a double shift, or helps you grind out spreadsheets at 2 a.m., it's practically a food group. It is built right into the culture of the workplace. But then, not legal. Drugs that take you offline. If a substance makes you stop, makes you reflect, slows you down, or just makes you want to disconnect for a bit, strictly forbidden. The line between what's celebrated and what's prohibited isn't actually drawn based on health. It is drawn entirely on whether or not it keeps you on the grind.
Which brings us to Section 3, the convenience food trap. This is all about the actual fuel we use to keep that daily grind going. Now, what's incredibly interesting here is the historical definition of emergency rations. Historically, an emergency ration is a situational necessity, right? It's high-calorie, ultra-processed, shelf-stable food designed literally just to keep you alive during a famine, a war, or maybe a really long sea voyage. But that extreme survival food has quietly morphed into the modern default meal. Because we're always rushing, always producing, always stuck in the loop, we eat as if we're in a constant state of emergency. We've taken something strictly meant for rare crises and quietly made it our permanent, everyday plate. Let's break that progression down step by step. Step 1, we invent emergency rations for pure survival. Step 2, driven by the need for convenience so we can just keep working, these rations become the default meal. And Step 3, this creates a slow health tax. Let me ask you this directly. Are you paying this tax right now? Every single time you choose the immediate convenience of a hyper-processed meal just to save time to get back to work, you're paying a tiny, invisible health tax. And just like we saw in the 50-year loop, that tax compounds over decades until the bill finally comes due.
All right, Section 4, the diet and disease paradox.
Here is the frustrating psychological barrier that keeps this whole tax in place. We know the pattern, we rarely change the default plate. So the crucial point is the pure absurdity of our collective cognitive dissonance here. Think about it. We have all the data. We know exactly what the 50-year loop does. We know the acceptable highs are burning us out. We know the convenience foods are a slow health tax. The pattern is completely visible to us, yet we stare right at the disease, we stare right at the plate causing it, and we rarely change it. We are totally aware of the trap, but the momentum of the modern grind is just so powerful that we keep walking the exact same circles anyway.
And finally, Section 5, who actually escapes?
Here's the final question our source material leaves us with, and it's exactly what I want to leave you with today. The way out.
Who actually escapes? If the default path of modern society is to trade your health for wealth, fuel yourself on emergency rations, and rely on acceptable highs just to keep producing until you're sick, how do you break the loop? It requires a conscious, radical rejection of the default plate and the default timeline. So I want you to look at your own daily loops. Are you productive first and sick later? Or are you one of the few who will actually find the way out? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I highly encourage you to think about how these paradoxes show up in your own life today.